Get your headsets ready. Ikuzo's Unscripted Podcast is going overtime. Ikuzo. Ladies and gentlemen, it's that time of the month. We are working overtime. We are going overtime, but we are not going to be lonely because I'm joined by two of my favorite YouTubers, but they're also a skilled martial artists and teachers of their own craft at their own gym. From Scenic Fights channel and Pexibellum Gym in New York City, I'm joined by Chad Vaźquez and Logan Lowe. Guys, how are you? Thank you for coming.
Doing well. Thank you for having us, man.
Yeah, appreciate you coming. First question I want to ask is, I'm a huge fan of Scenic Fights, and I hope you will gather new fans after this episode with us. Can you explain to my listeners what Scenic Fights channel does and what it is all about?
Yes. So everyone within our team, you can say, are martial arts fans, right? Logan and I are practitioners within our own styles. You know, I'm a black belt within jiu-jitsu. Logan also being a practitioner in jiu-jitsu as well. He also is a practitioner of Kali, which I'm sure he'll expand more. And our main focus is we look at very cool fight scenes, whether it's anime, shows, movies, what have you. We look at what techniques and strategies are used and if they are legit or not. I cover the hand-to-hand portion with that, given my mixed martial arts background and my history there in training and competing. And then, of course, Logan covers the weapons work, given his Kali background.
Yep. Okay. Listen, like I said, I was already your follower. Right now you're doing. You just expanded your team. You added. Is that Pak, the name of the guy?
Steve Pak. Yeah. He. We've known him for years. Steve Pak is one of my martial arts brothers. He was when I was actually competing a lot within mixed martial arts. He was my main training partner. Yeah. And he has a black belt in judo. He's a judo background, wrestling background, and within my gym at Pexibellum, he covers the judo classes there. So yeah, we have him on board, and we're able to actually show what these real throws look like when And I mean, it hasn't been that much fun for me because I'm the main guy that's being thrown. We're trying to protect Logan, so I'm the guy that has to eat those throws. For you, the fans, for you. But yeah, he has a great personality, great skill set, and can really dive deeper into takedown strategies than I can.
Yeah, and you were releasing recently these short videos, and you said that you're going to have a longer breakdown coming. But one thing that I enjoy shorter breakdowns as well, but I wonder what is the difference in production between, say, that shorter breakdown and that longer breakdown? How do you go about it? Is it for the shorter breakdown, you just see something and you're, let's do it? Or how does the whole process of creating a video, breaking down and analyzing it goes? And how long does it take?
You know what? I think that we do shorts now because we all have full-time jobs. Chad's a full-time instructor. All of our video guys, they're all full-time video producers. So all of this is a labor of love for us. And that's why we've had these gaps of up to 3 months between long videos. And it's just because life gets in the way. And we're not able to do it as consistently as we want. But then the fans are there waiting for us. And we want to make sure that we provide for the fans. And so the shorts are a way to do that because we can produce them a lot more quickly. So we're still doing the long format, certainly, but the shorts are a way so that we could still be out there, still produce content, but it doesn't take as much time out. So there were times we would do 2-day shoots for 12, 13 hours for the day, back to back. And then Chad would go to work and I would go to work Monday through Friday. So, we're talking about 2 straight weeks of just working. Yeah, it wasn't. It's not really something that we can do with that much regularity. But the shorts are something that we could do in a half day. We could produce some good content for our audience, and we're very proud of the shorts as well, certainly. And we're definitely going to go back to the long format as well.
Yeah, great. I enjoy shorts as well. Next, I know you guys are Marvel fans. This Wednesday, Moon Knight wrapped up. What did you think of it first?
Oh, I caught up to the last episode. It's a great show.
Great show.
I really like it. I didn't know how to feel about it. I'm aware of the Moon Knight character within the comics. I haven't actually read too much on that character, so I know very little about it. So
most of the people didn't, but they pretend that they did.
It was a great introduction to a character like that into the MCU. So I'll just say as a quick answer, I loved everything about it: the acting, storyline, the characters. It was awesome. Vices were fun as well too. Dope show for sure.
Yeah. So for me, I'm the opposite of Chad. Moon Knight was actually one of the first comic books I ever read. So Chad and I both grew up not very wealthy. We grew up from poor households, basically. And so I remember as a kid, someone gave us a box of comics. And in that comics, I guess this guy really liked Moon Knight. So it was epic. I'm going to make it up, but issues 1 through 50 of Moon Knight were the first comics I ever read.
That's unusual.
So, it's very unusual. So the first superhero I knew about was Moon Knight, and Mark Spector and his wife Marlene, who they changed the name of it. And the story I still remember, because again, I read it when I was a little kid. I was 10 years old. And so there are elements from those first comic books that were in this, but they changed a number of things, for modern society. Originally, his wife was blonde and Caucasian, and now, rightfully so, she's Egyptian, which I thought was a great, subtle change, and her character was great as well. I loved the show. I thought it was really, really well done.
But one thing as well, in the last episode, there was a very, I thought, nice action sequences, and he employed Kali. Am I right?
Absolutely. And in fact, that sequence, because again, Chad, this is what Chad and I do. We analyze the scenes already. And we've already talked about it. That's a 7-second sequence of stick work. Yeah. And in those 7 seconds are so many moves. There's something called Sinawali that's there that we're going to break down. There's
I trust you will.
Yeah, so there's all of these really authentic Kali attacks that are in there. And that's definitely going to be, it's already in our pipeline for us to break down at some point. I'm personally very excited about this because I think it's our first breakdown that we can see that's double stick. So that's something that I definitely want to talk about.
You need to check out Daredevil as well. I think he used both, if I remember correctly, for the action sequences. But I enjoyed the Moon Knight as well. I didn't think it was a 10, around 8. I thought it was that kind of a show. Did you maybe catch Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness?
No, not yet.
Okay, I'm not going to spoil.
Yeah. I'm trying to work way towards that. It comes out this weekend, correct?
We watched it yesterday where we live.
Oh yeah. I'm trying to get there soon because I have a lot of friends who are in that culture, and they have a tendency to say too much.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying. So I have to get there quickly before a conversation happens. I'm not ready for it.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet, but it's on my to-do list. It's definitely on my watch list.
Listen, but you said to me before we discussed before the recording was on, you mentioned it here. When you watch scenes, you're sort of now, even if you're a fan, you're sort of analyzing it as you are watching it. So does that maybe kind of ruin the film for you? Enjoyment sometimes? Does it hurt it, or is just all the same for you?
Well, I can only speak for myself. I think that Chad and I, and Chad can answer for himself as well. I think that we still watch them as fans, but ever since we started Scenic Bites, we definitely look at it a lot more critically. Yeah. There's a great saying which says, you can enjoy sausages, but you never want to know how the sausage is made. I kind of feel that a little bit these days because we now know how many takes it takes to film one little short sequence. So we know all the effort that they put in. So we don't want to just, crap on them for poor sequences when it's done. But when it's really bad, I think for both Chad and myself, it really does pull us out of the movie because we think that's just ludicrous. And you can see from my videos The thing that annoys me the most is when there's always a scene where there's a guy trying to push a knife in, and Chad knows now from experience with me that that's complete BS. Like there's never a purpose to force in a knife because you can always find another way in. So that's something that really ruins a lot of shows for me. Chad, what do you think?
Well, if there's like superhuman elements to it, I'm very much forgiving. Right? So, like if a person's that strong, they just flick a human being away. Okay, I'll go with it. If it's a good storyline, whatever. But for me, the films that been hard to watch has been films that particularly focus on combat sports. Yeah. So there is one example that was pretty tough to watch, and I'm curious. There's one called Southpaw.
Southpaw. Oh yeah. Usually boxing movies aren't done very well. They are not realistic.
I would say the movie Creed, granted, I'm more specialized as a grappler, but I do have striking training, so I'm aware of just obviously form and whatnot. Wasn't too bad, but with Southpaw, there's, the number one, first off, the trailer covered the whole storyline.
Yeah, all right.
So that was like, I'm like, I'm watching the trailer. It's just an hour long now, but I know exactly what's the next is going to happen.
That's the problem with trailers usually.
Yeah, and then the second part was there were scenes where the leading actor had to be in the ring with a boxer, and I think they actually had real boxers, if I remember correctly, in the States. But when you see him move, it's so clearly he's an amateur.
Yeah,
with respect, within skill set, that I was like, it was tough to watch there. And then there'll be other mixed martial arts movies that I haven't watched because I've seen some of the scenes, and it's I don't know, it kind of takes me out. So for me, it's like within actual combat sports. And so if a film actually has a storyline on an actual combat sport and a student or person within that sport, whether it's boxing or mixed martial arts, then that's for me. I'm like, okay, it really, then I'm really judging it. If that's the context of the story. But if there's like a superhuman element there, and I don't care, like I'm gonna have fun. I don't go too hard in judging it.
I like what you both said there. When there's that element to it of supernatural, I think sometimes people overthink some movies, and I'm like, you go watch recently. I loved Godzilla versus Kong. I'm like, if you think about that movie too much, you're gonna ruin it.
Yeah. Right. It's like, it's like, are you gonna be mad of where Godzilla came from? Like, well, technically, on the geographical nature level, that shit. It's like, dude, come on. It's a radioactive giant monster. Like, chill out.
Giant lizard versus overgrown gorilla with the neck.
I had a funny experience on Scenic Fights. So one of the big things we do was Attack on Titan.
Yeah, I love that.
Love that show. Random show. Love that show. Really awesome. But I'm breaking down a scene from I think it's probably one of our first episodes on that show. Very excited. And but I in my mind, I'm on teacher mode, and I'm breaking it down as, okay, look, in real fight context, the way he went about the fight, it wouldn't work well. Then suddenly when we released it, the comment section hit me hard. Because I was arguing in a certain position, you should go for a strangle first, then a joint lock. And that was arguing. And just for more context for our viewers here, in grappling combat, when we're looking at ways to apply strangles or joint locks, there are positions where you actually have the option of both. So I tell my students, if you have the option of both and your body type allows it, you should generally put strangles first because they end fights quicker. Where for a joint lock, you're not totally sure. But then in the Attack on Titan show, the thing is, the point of the story is that they don't need oxygen to breathe. Yeah. So when I made that comment, almost every comment's like, well, Titans don't breathe. and so that's dude, it was like 200 comments of just like that.
It was so funny.
Yeah. And I remember this. I remember in our meeting with our producer Julio, we're saying, okay, maybe you should be more mindful of that. So I learned something that day on how to be mindful of what I'm saying in regards of context to the show. And then on the end of the meeting, he was like, by the way, Chad, times don't breathe. He says busting me. Yeah, and like he starts reminding me. It was funny, but that was like a perfect example of just not being mindful of the context. And people say, no, dude, it doesn't make sense because times don't breathe, so the strangle doesn't count. Okay, fine. In that case, fine. You're right. So yeah, no, it's a learning experience.
But anime and manga fans usually don't forgive. They don't.
No. No. So we learned quickly on that one to make sure. So when we do shoot the anime, like we make sure to be within the context of the storyline and to make sure that that's being said as I explain something. So for sure,
we get some interesting. First of all, we love our fans.
Yeah,
hands down.
They're great.
We're amazed that we have fans. I mean, it's something we never thought we'd have. But having said that, there are people that are like super fans of other things, and so I'm a huge fan of Donnie Yen. I've seen a lot of his films. I grew up watching him. I've been watching him since I was in college. That was ages ago. That dude is very talented, and he's a real martial artist too.
Yeah. But
we were saying like some of the moves that he does in the show are flashy and probably not the best moves. The amount of hate I got I'm like, bro, are you his mom? I mean, I'm not saying anything bad about him. I'm just saying in that scene, that character, not Donnie Yen himself, but the character, it just doesn't make sense that he would do that. Oh my gosh. And it was like, I was afraid to leave my house. I mean,
I get you, but you learned it, and I will tell you where you learned it because of your Mortal Kombat video, breaking down the Scorpion versus Sub-Zero. I mean, they're throwing fire at each other and ice, but you still broke it down very good, I believe.
Thanks, guys.
But that's how it goes. And you mentioned like boxing, for example. I think a lot of, because that's the general audience is gonna watch that, so they don't know boxing. Probably, I'm a fan. I'm not boxing I'm not a boxer, but as a boxing fan, you see, fights are a lot of defensive and moving head, and producers and directors are thinking, oh, this is not going to be probably interesting for the public or something like that. So I get that, but you broke down. You mentioned as well Donnie Yen, and you broke down John Wick and anime and TV shows. Let me ask you this, on top of your head right now, most in terms of action, most overrated action film and most underrated action film. Just throw me something.
I can say that I think Chad would agree with me, but the action film that we saw with Bob Odenkirk, what was the name of that, Chad? Do you remember? Nobody. Maybe. We thought that I thought it was great. I thought that was a really underrated film. I don't think as many people saw it that should. There's some really great fight sequences there. Chad and I had a great time shooting that breakdown. I had a great time shooting that breakdown. That I thought was really underrated. In terms of overrated, honestly, I personally did not think that any of the Mortal Kombat movies, including the ones from the 90s and this one, they just don't do justice to the video game. I was never a big video game person. I'm sure Chad will speak about Cole a little bit more, but I feel that there was a lot of wasted opportunities, and that's something that Chad and I talk about a lot. Wasted opportunities. No. Yeah, right.
I didn't judge Mortal Kombat too hard because of, again.
Yeah.
It's Mortal Kombat. Yeah. But I do have one film on my head with regards to maybe being overrated. So let's see if this will hurt our career or not. Here we go. We're gonna take a shot. I felt Taken was overrated. Okay, first glance. First time I saw it, it was kind of cool, interesting story, right? But looking now at films who really create these perfect, beautiful shots and these fight scenes, if I remember correctly, Taken had a lot of like these. They cut a lot.
Yes,
it was very quick. You couldn't really see anything. Like you would see his hand do some movement, and then guy appear somewhere, and like it was choppy in that way.
Yeah.
So given since the YouTube channel, learning how to look at fight scenes now, learning how to talk about it, because that's a skill set that had to be developed over time as we kept doing it. I look at a film like Taken, and I see, okay, I don't appreciate it. I want to see what's going on. It looks like you're clearly trying to hide the movements here, and I want to see it. So that's what I'd say. And obviously, I know it got big praise, and it's a cool storyline, and they made 2 others after that, right? It was like a 3.
That's just bad parenting, Chad. That's just poor parenting. When your child gets taken 3 times, you have to call child services at that point.
Yeah. But I would say that's overrated, in my opinion.
Yeah, but listen, I think Taken as well, it's a good movie. The first one, it's cult movie, you can say. Other 2 are catastrophe. Other 2 are,
I agree,
are crime against humanity. Well, listen, I don't know. You are, Logan, you're obviously expert in weapons. So this is a quick one. Did you watch Demon Slayer, maybe?
I did not. I have not.
Demon Slayer, baby. That's a great. Sorry, I know. I'm with you, brother. That's a grand.
Really? Okay.
I love Demon Slayer. Yeah,
that's a good one. Yeah, because I wanted to ask you about the question that one character from the 2nd season uses. It's sort of 2 swords that are connected with the chain, and I was wondering, would it be really possible in the real life? Chad, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah. I'm blanking on the character's name, but yes, he's a shinobi. Yes.
Well, I'll answer it this way. There are thousands of martial arts, maybe tens of thousands of martial arts throughout history, and most of them died out. And why is that? They die out because if the guy practicing gets killed, then it doesn't get passed on.
Yeah, obviously.
Right?
Yeah.
But why is jiu-jitsu and boxing so popular? Why is judo so popular? Because it works. It works. I had an interesting talk with someone who uses nunchucks. And I said to them, there's a reason why soldiers don't go into battle with nunchucks. They're just not the optimal weapon. The optimal weapon is something long and pointy. It does not need to be a sword. It could be a spear. So a spear and a sword have the same element, which is a pointy tip. And what is an arrow? An arrow has a pointy tip. And what is a bullet? A bullet is essentially a pointy tip. Yeah. So humanity alone, each culture, every culture has a dumpling. Every culture has a dumpling. Because every culture goes like, we're poor, we have lots of wheat, we have a little meat, let's wrap that meat up or cheese in some cheap dough and let's eat it. You have the kreplach, you have the jiaozi, you have the ravioli. Every culture has dumpling. Why? Because human beings are all the same. We're all the same. And so when it comes to a weapon connected by a chain that has 2 pointy ends, I've never seen it. There's probably a reason I've never seen it. And look, don't get me wrong. There are people coming up with new techniques of jiu-jitsu every day, but it still follows rules. Chad has a saying. I'm actually one of Chad's students in jiu-jitsu. He's my instructor in jiu-jitsu. And Chad says something all the time, which is, you have to follow the facts. And the facts of the matter is if a weapon, and I don't know what weapon you're talking about, connected by a chain was useful, then armies around the world would have had weapons connected by chains all over the world, but we don't. But every culture wrestles. Every culture wrestles.
Yes.
The Africans wrestle, the Asians wrestle, the Europeans wrestle, they wrestle. In the Bible, one of the first things that they talked about was how Jacob wrestled with the angel. I'm not religious at all, but just it's an interesting look at how wrestling is a huge part of humanity.
Yeah, it's basically our oldest sport, if we can call it a sport.
Exactly. Whereas weapons connected by chains.
Yeah, well, that's cool as hell, though.
What?
That looks cool as hell. It looks cool as hell. There's a scene where he whips it and he holds just the tip of the blade to extend it.
Okay, we know that part is bullshit, but it's so cool.
But cool as hell though. He was like this. I was like, oh yeah, it was cool. But yeah, that's actually that's a point that Logan made. And actually, I was thinking as he was saying that combat sports are a unique organization of knowledge for learning combat skills. What's very interesting with combat sports is that those who are within martial arts maybe really trained for real combat, and maybe you can probably say are traditionalists. they would they look at combat sports as it's not real fighting, it's a game. That's the argument here a lot.
Yeah,
it's a game, it's not real fighting. And there's it's valid to a certain degree. Yes, there are rules. We agree not to bite each other or eye gouge. So yeah. And there's equipment for some of them. Like, yes, that's very valid. But one, thanks to combat sports, we have knowledge of different type of combat skills organized. So boxing covers footwork, head movement, and punching. Muay Thai covers punching, but mostly kicking focus, and stand-up grappling, that clinch with the use of sweeps and elbows and knees, right? Jiu-Jitsu covers arguably many layers of grappling, takedown element, the ground fighting element. Judo covers its own layers of grappling, more focuses on the takedown portion, right? Yeah. And so forth. And so if you look at combat sports, you actually can pick, okay, what type of skill set do I want to learn? And with these rule sets, it's a organized, safe way of training. B, it also helps you focus on what type of particular skill set you're trying to improve on. I think over time, I think martial arts made their way to combat sports for that reason, just the organization of knowledge, and that's how it's able to be passed on and fine-tuned over time there. So I think that's such an important what Logan's making about, like, do you see the weapon evolve in other cultures?
Yeah.
Why? That's a good valid point. Look at it.
Yeah, good point. Listen, as I want to talk about martial arts, but just now I was thinking about, we were talking about ridiculous fight scenes. And did you guys watch Hobbit? I suppose you did.
Yes.
Do you remember the scene where Legolas jumps on the fucking rocks that are dropping? He's defying the gravity.
Yeah.
And no shit. Like I remember we were with a friend of ours. We were discussing how stupid that scene looks, and he was talking about that scene defies logic, and we were like, yeah, we agree, but who tells that gravity works the same way in the Middle Earth as it doesn't?
Just talking trees, baby. It's like at that point, I don't know what's real anymore. I was like, if I came in that world. So, Chad, there's trees that talk. You have trolls here. That animal talks there too, by the way. That bird will have. I'm like, all right, well, we can fly. Like, whatever you say now, I will believe. I guess I'll start. I'll start learning with you what's real or not, for sure.
And before we go to the martial arts, I have one more question. I don't know which was which awards were there. I don't remember, but in 2019, the best fight scene of the year, but I believe it was MTV or some shit, or People's Choice, were awarded to the some fight from Captain Marvel movie instead of the Avengers Endgame, and who knows, the John Wick 3 or some shit.
Yeah.
Do you even remember the Captain Marvel movie?
Okay, Captain Marvel. Yeah, I did see the film.
Yeah,
and now a fight scene from that was rewarded as the best fight scene within that year. Yeah, as they're saying. I didn't know that.
Yeah, for real.
I'm trying to think right now what fight scene we've been talking about.
Was it one with Captain Marvel versus her old captain? Old. That was the one.
I believe it was that one. Nobody remembers what the fuck happened there. I will tell you, and that's one of the best fight of the year.
Oh, dude.
John Wick came out that year, and Avengers Endgame.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. John Wick came out here too. I mean, especially if you're looking at fight scenes, John Wick, at least there's more, you can argue, more real elements in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Than a Marvel film,
Obviously.
It's crazy. I don't know. I didn't know that.
No, did not know that.
I'm having a hard time even remember the Captain Marvel film. I mean,
it's pretty forgettable for me as well.
Nothing gets. I enjoyed. I have too much criticism for it. I enjoy the film, but just doesn't stand out.
I don't remember it very well.
Yeah. Trust me, nobody does. But on the topic of martial arts, we were speaking, and you made a great point there with the wrestling. I like that. Listen, when we are speaking, and combat sports are getting more popular in terms of MMA. Boxing but it's politics because boxing are slowing down. Politics is slowing boxing down, but MMA seems get more popular and popular. Do people still look at martial arts as something like that's all violence? That's not something that we should. Because I trust you teach kids as well. What is the general feeling of parents that send their kids to study martial arts? Because I think that's a great thing to learn martial arts.
I myself am a parent, and I learn martial arts for the same reason I do martial arts now. I don't seek out violence. I avoid violence at all costs. And Chad knows this too, but I'm a little bit older than Chad. And I tell everyone this, the thing that will probably kill young men in New York City is pride more than anything else. Someone steps on your foot, you start a fight, they whip out a knife or a gun, and then you die because of pride. I think that's dumb. I think it's one of the stupidest things out there. So for me, the learning of martial arts is the learning of how to manage violence. I want to manage violence. I don't want to deal with it. If I could spend the rest of my life completely avoiding violence, that would be great. I would be all for that. If I could watch it, I watch other people do violence, that'd be even better. I can watch other people do violence and I can just go home and watch Netflix. I mean, that would ideally be my thing. So for me, I think that what we require of self-protection these days is higher and higher because the caliber is better. So you can just go to YouTube and see people try to do sloppy rear naked chokes or try to do sloppy triangles. This probably didn't happen like 15, 20, 30 years ago. So now even a bad triangle choke or even a bad rear naked choke could work, because if you don't know what's going on, you'll get choked out or you'll get hurt. So I think that the requirement of self-protection is now better because more people are aware of all of these tools out there, arm bars, rear naked chokes, these weapons, weapons are more readily available, I think, than ever. So these are things that we have to be aware of. So before you just had to kind of know a little bit of grappling and maybe a little bit of boxing. Now you need to know more to protect yourself against more scenarios. That's my opinion. And that's what I would like for my child. I would like my child to know how to defend himself if, God forbid, something happens. And I tell him this all the time. I never want to hear that you started a fight. I never want, if I find out you started a fight, oh my God, we're going to have problems at home. But if anyone ever tries to touch you, you are 100% right to touch them back. Yeah. If someone tries to touch you, you can touch them back. You 100%. I don't care what your principal says. I don't care what your teacher says. If someone tries to touch you and you don't want to be touched, you 100% have the right to touch them back. That's my opinion. I think other parents have different opinions, but that's my opinion as a parent.
Yeah, I think that's a fine one.
Yeah, so as answering your question, because I'm sure I'm addressing it correctly, you're asking, society's view on violence and maybe how combat sports have been kind of playing the perspective on it. Well, first part, to my opinion on that, the first question is, okay, well, how much does an individual respect or acknowledge the reality of violence in their life?
Yeah.
There are people who grew up who have a face-to-face meeting with violence in its different forms quickly. Therefore, martial arts have a more important meaning to that person than others. There are others who are lucky to not have that meeting. Maybe it's just like, I don't know, a mean talk from a parent, just say, hey, discipline. But maybe it's also getting jumped at school and getting bullied.
Yeah.
Right. That changes the perspective quickly. Okay, you know what? I had a meeting with violence. How do I fix this? Because I don't know how to do that.
A lot of people actually started martial arts because of that, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. Obviously. I mean, I growing up, I had to deal with bullies. Yeah. And that was a real thing. It's like, it's an issue I have to fix, but so martial arts is that answer, right? Now, what I think is very interesting with mixed martial arts is its way of educating the culture society that, let's say for now, let's say in the United States, I can only speak personally with the United States, because I would say before then, without having a combat sport that allowed the observation of overall hand-to-hand combat, right? Striking, grappling, and the relationship of the two. That's overall hand-to-hand combat. We see at the highest level at that stage. As a people, we can look at, oh, wow, okay, so this is really what works. This is what actually real combat looks like. Or before then, you had films that maybe sold something else, and
36 Chambers was fell in.
Yeah, and I've had talks with people who, I got into jiu-jitsu in its early development as a combat sport, early 2000s, but also it was the early development of what we know as the UFC, right? The UFC really put mixed martial arts out on that platform and stage, and it really started showing people, okay, this is what real combat looks like. Yes. And so what's funny is if you look at street fights now that are recorded, they actually are doing some of the stuff that you see. It's funny because they're fighting each other, and you know what? It's horrible, but they're on the right direction. So I'd see like a leg kick, and I'm like, you know what? It was bad technique, but he's actually right on that. That was actually the
don't encourage.
And he actually gets the right results. You can see this guy is a fan. You can tell he's a fan. He just hasn't trained yet. So he's played a lot of UFC games, so he has an idea of combinations, right? And he's doing it. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
But that's an example of that, right? That's an example of just like, okay, this combat sport that at first you hear stories where it was looked at as like, this is crazy, this is gladiator stuff, this is uncivilized, right? That was the image that
and I hated those
arts had. Yeah. Then over time, the UFC being smart, the UFC was like, okay, we need to rebrand this sport. And so Dana White and his team, genius enough, right? They make the Ultimate Fighter to rebrand the sport, but also to put out to American culture, right? Because Americans love reality shows. And they, so it's just to blend the two. And then you could tell over time, they constantly fine tune and rebrand mixed martial arts as a professional sport, the same image and prestige that boxing has. And now we don't, everyone here, people I talk to who even don't train jiu-jitsu, they are aware of what jiu-jitsu is.
Yes. They
are mindful of, they know what mixed martial arts is now, and they just see as, it's a sport, just like boxing, just like football, just, like your general sport. But it had to work its way to that level through smart business branding. And in an interesting way, it's also now kind of shedding light on, okay, what does real combat really look like? And so you have people who don't train and say, oh yeah, that I don't think that's really makes sense. That looks more like it's interesting. It's interesting. It's impact. I'll just educate that.
Yeah. One other thing that I find with people that have very limited knowledge of real martial arts is, have you ever heard of the Norton bomb sight, Luca? You know what the Norton bomb sight is?
No, I don't. No, I don't.
Okay. In the 1940s, the U.S. sunk $1.5 billion into this technology. This is $1.5 billion back then in 1940.
Yeah, it's huge now due to inflation.
So it'd probably be like $4 billion now.
Yeah.
What the Norton bomb sight was it was a way that was precision bombing, so that the saying was that you could drop a bomb into a barrel from 10,000 feet up. Yeah. And they sunk all this money in. And during demonstrations, it worked amazingly. Every time they wanted to land the bomb, it landed perfectly. But what's the problem? The problem is guess what? When people are shooting at you and it's raining and there are clouds and there are other planes attacking you, it doesn't really work as well. So Chad and I have seen so many things where there are certain martial arts where there are all these wrist locks.
Oh, yeah.
And that's great. Listen, wrist locks are cool and they're great, but you need to get my wrist.
Yeah.
And if I'm swinging a weapon, so you need to get past my weapon, which is both, my weapon is pointy and sharp. To get my wrist, good luck. Good luck getting my wrist. I mean, maybe you'll get it, but I'm going to cut you to shreds before you get my wrist. So that's one of the things that, there's another martial art called dim mak, which nobody does anymore, which is the pressure points.
I heard about it. Yeah.
It's the death touch. Here's the thing. It actually works.
But if you can get
But you have to have a guy steady so you can find that one little point on their body, which you can like really hurt them with. It's not easy to do. And one of the things that I've found out from my own jiu-jitsu journey, and I'm sure Chad could say this as well, like you can learn all of these amazing techniques, but if you can't get to the point where you can do the technique, there's no point. There's no real point. So the Norton bomb sight never works. It never worked. They built this thing, they sent it out to try to conquer, try to beat Germany. It never worked because it's different under the stress of violence. The stress of violence changes everything. So all of these great ideas that you've got about how you're going to defend yourself. There's one guy there. I get this a lot. I get a lot on comments from my stuff. If I have a knife and they have a gun, I've wasted years of my life training. Okay. Here's the thing.
You're not faster than a bullet.
20 feet of you and you have a gun and I have a knife out, I'm going to win. I don't care what you say. Like we had a coach who would always say like, oh, if you had a knife, Logan, I would disarm you. Okay, let's try that. Let's try that. If I have a sharp weapon and I want to hurt you, you're going to disarm me. All right, let's go. Let's try it. So I think that mixed martial arts and the stuff we do is when reality hits theory. Theory and reality are very different things. And that's one of the reasons why I think MMA is so popular and weapons work is so popular, because it's proven itself over and over again in combat that it works.
Oh yeah.
That's my 2 cents on it.
Okay, guys. Listen, I heard I spoke to you. I like your energy. I like the stuff that you're doing on YouTube. I like your philosophy and martial arts as well. Let me ask you this final question. You have a lot of stuff going on. You have YouTube, Pexibellum Gym, you're teachers. What are your goals? Like, I don't know if whether it's personal, professional. What are your goals? What are you trying to achieve in the next 5-10 years? Where do you want to steer your ship, as we would say?
Chad, you want to take that first?
The main goal that got me here in front of this camera, talking to you from the beginning I started training till now, was always to just get as good as I can within jiu-jitsu. That's always my journey, and that's something I've always chased. I've always put first, and that's always been that was like I say my first choice in life was that. Now, obviously, as I get older, life has responsibilities, and I'm trying to make the best living off of this one particular goal, is my relationship with my training. I'm always trying to train. I'm always trying to learn. I'm always trying to improve before I die. That's my journey. And that comes first. And anything that gets in the way of that's not going to happen. Anyone or anything. Right now, there's also the reality of life. And so now, obviously, as I'm getting older, I want to, I love teaching. That is part of my training. Yeah. Especially now, right? Learning how to understand information, organize it, communicate it. It really forces me to really think and apply it for myself. And in doing so, as I study, as I teach, I've felt myself improve. And I've had a rhythm of training, especially now that I run my own schedule. It's really more my personal schedule, right? It's more like, this is what I want to learn this week. Usually you guys just part with me so I can get you better, but so you can be training partners and we can work together, but it's really my schedule. And it's helped me. I've improved on it. So, and seeing fights was another cool way of teaching. Yeah. Right? Because at the moment I started training, I also, being a senior student with that early small group, I also had to teach. So it just came for me personally with the territory of training. And so now I'm using this skill set of teaching that I've learned to develop as a career. So I want to, expand my gym in a way where I could build up students. I would love to hire my students and give them opportunities at work where we can maybe build a team and give an opportunity for anyone who wants to maybe go on the journey of being a coach on their own and make that gym possibly, where I can also kind of slowly step back, manage it, let it run, and just make my second retire. and I
That's
retire
good.
and then I can make it just train and we'll see if fights is also a cool way of teaching too, meet new people, right? And also see if I can make it retire off this thing I love, which is training, teaching, and that's it. Yeah.
Logan?
Sure. I'm at a different stage in my life from Chad and some other people. I'm a parent now, and the only thing I really want to do is just raise my son and have him live a good life. The average American woman lives 28,500 days. The average American male lives about 26,000 days. I only have a few thousand days left, and I just want to spend it, basically telling my son all of the things that I can. And I feel the pressure of time. I feel like I'm running out of time to tell him all the things that I feel he needs to know for the world. And so that's what I'm doing right now. I'm basically prepping him for his time so that he can have the best life here. And I can provide him with the tools, hopefully, that he can use to have a good life here. And that's really my only focus, my main focus, and probably really my only focus these days. Everything else I do for self-entertainment. I do scenic fights because I find it entertaining for myself. I do jujitsu and kali because I find it entertaining for myself. But really, in terms of my purpose here, my purpose is to just raise my son. That's basically my purpose.
Okay, guys, I loved it. I love your goals. I enjoyed it very much. I enjoyed this talk with you. We are watching you on Scenic Fights, but maybe we lack knowing you more. And I hope this interview kind of helps your previous and future audience to know you a little better. So thank you. And I wish you the best in the future. And hopefully when time is right, we can do this again.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Appreciate the time.
Great, guys.